go round 2 with Bully Ray. What's the haps? You didn't get it last time.
Yeah, I saw you say that with Heyman. What exactly is what's the haps?
It's like, what's the haps? It's like a pleasant way to start a conversation. Just an ease into it. What's the haps?
What's happening? What's going on? What's going down?
Exactly.
No, everything went well the first time around.
Well, yeah. I don't know, because the last time we talked, you were talking about you're marrying Hulk Hogan's daughter.
Right.
And you were telling me this is really going down. And I told you, if you're really marrying somebody, the wrestling ring is not the place to do it because these marriages go poorly so often. And what happened? The marriage, the wedding ceremony itself was destroyed. It was dismantled.
There was a little bit of a problem, yes. Yes, it wasn't your traditional the traditional ending to a wedding.
Right.
No, it went a little awry, but it made for great TV, didn't it?
It did make for good TV.
Yeah.
If you had just sat there, if I'm watching Impact and it's a wrestling ring wedding and you just get married and ride off into the sunset together, I don't feel like I've gotten my money's worth.
That's got boring written all over
Exactly.
it, huh? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So since then, though, you become the TNA World Champion, which is big. That's the first time you've been a singles World Heavyweight Champion.
Yep,
right?
Definitely. First time. It's been pretty good so far.
It's a milestone.
Yeah. Not many guys have been able to do what I've done, come out of a, tag team that was so successful for so long.
Yeah.
And then, become a successful singles wrestler and then become the World Heavyweight Champion.
Part of that, though, is like you have physically transformed. You look like a different dude now than you did when you were a Dudley boy. Mm-hmm. When did you decide, because you were always like the tough but a bit rotund dude.
A bit rotund.
I don't want to be disrespectful. But...
As I like to say, Tommy Dreamer-esque.
I saw on Twitter you've been taking some shots at that.
The fat war continues.
The obesity.
Yeah. So
But when did you decide?
And obesity is now a disease.
Yeah. Well, apparently you cured yourself.
And Dreamer is in stage 4 fatness right now.
Is that right?
Yeah. So. But yeah,
when did you decide, okay?
When me and Devon split up, that's when I decided I want to get myself in better shape. I want to reinvent myself. I want to look different. Mm-hmm. And I just hit the gym really hard and, went down from, I don't know, probably at that time I was probably at about 360, now down to 275, just look better, feel better, the whole 9 yards.
And you're jacked now.
I don't know if you have jacked.
Well, look at you have biceps. You have real.
I've always had those.
Yeah, but they were hidden before.
My arms are the size of your legs.
I know. Your arms are the size of my head. I have a giant head. It's frightening. But I would assume that, sometime during your time in WWE or something, there would have been pressure for you to be more of a muscle guy like you are now.
No, never. Me and Devon were successful no matter how we looked, no matter how we dressed. It really wasn't about that kind of image for us. We did, everything that we needed to do, we did in the ring. Whether it was with, the tables or, we were just, a good entertaining tag team. So we didn't have to look like the Road Warriors or the Steiners, that was it.
But the idea of getting into ridiculous shape was just, I need to transform myself. I need to create a new identity.
With reinvention, yeah. I knew that would be the most visible way to reinvent myself. Just get into the best possible shape I could. And then, the ass that gets thrown at you left and right is ridiculous.
It's changed, huh?
But no complaints. Everything's gone good since the last time that we talked.
Was there any risk? Because now you're a member of this bad guy faction.
No. I am not a member of a bad guy faction. I am the president of a biker club.
I meant the member. Not the most important.
No, you said a member. I'm not a member.
Right. No.
Okay?
No.
I'm the president.
You're the president of an evil, villainous biker club.
Correct.
But a multicultural biker club.
Yes.
Which is still
we
a
do
step
not
forward.
Discriminate.
It's 2013 after all.
Exactly.
You could be evil. Was there any risk, though? Are you sitting there going, okay, I've created this solo identity for myself. I don't know if I want to do something where Devon and I are a team again.
Well, me and Devon are not really a team again. Devon's a part of the Aces and Eights, and every once in a while, we team up. Like, actually, we'll be teaming up on July the 6th in White Plains. It'll be me and Devon versus Samoa Joe and Jeff Hardy in a street fight. That's the main event that day.
Where in White Plains? At the county center?
Yep.
Absolutely. I love Westchester.
Yes, you're a big,
I'm
that's
a
where you're
Westchester
from.
guy.
You and Heyman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we team up every once in a while.
But that's not you feel like you've established yourself enough as a singles guy to.
No, I am definitely a singles wrestler right now who every once in a while will slip back into a tag team match when I have to.
I was watching YouTube videos of you yesterday and like little snippets of your previous shoot interviews and talking about getting in trouble for smacking young guys in the face and stuff like that.
Right.
Do you feel like you're a locker room general in TNA?
I've been referred to as a locker room general, which is a very nice compliment. Kind of a take charge kind of guy. The whole slapping incident wasn't just because I was in a bad mood or anything. That young wrestler deserved to be slapped after months and months of making the same mistakes. You can only try to educate somebody verbally so much. Then when they don't listen, maybe they need a little physical motivation.
And did that transition happen amazingly quickly after?
No, he was horrible. So
after this, it just didn't work.
Yeah, he didn't belong in that ring.
He was one of the La Resistance guys.
Yeah, I mean those guys those guys were hated because this was at the time La Resistance was put together at the time when the United States had gone to war, I believe, in Afghanistan,
right.
And the French didn't want to back us up. So Vince McMahon put together La Resistance.
Genius, but they couldn't. They weren't good.
In the ring, no, they were very, very, very young guys.
Gotcha.
And one of them only had a minimal amount of time in a wrestling ring and in the business, and the other guy was, as green as the day is long. So it worked because they had so much heat behind them, being French. They were in the ring with us, so we could kind of try to hide some of their weaknesses. But at the end of the day, he deserved a smack.
What do you see now when you're looking at like young guys coming up in TNA? What's the biggest difference in this generation of wrestlers?
The most glaring difference is size.
Yeah,
there's not a lot of big guys out there anymore.
Is that a steroid thing? Was everybody juiced up before?
No. It's just an overall stature thing. Back in the day, I was considered average.
Wow.
Now I'm, between me and I'll say, Abyss, we're probably the two biggest guys, or Matt Morgan, who is very, very tall.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'3".
And that's tall now.
That's right. Yeah. I'm one of the biggest guys in the ring as compared to, guys, like, let's say AJ Styles, Bobby Roode, James Storm, all great athletes, but all pretty much the same size.
Right. So, but what about in terms of attitude and the way they look at the business and coming up and everything?
Well, I came up in a different era of wrestling. I'm very old school in my mentality and my thinking. It all depends on how you get broken into this business. It's just like a puppy. You train the puppy the right way, and it won't piss on the floor. If you don't, you'll come home and the place will be covered in crap.
Right.
Some of these guys are not brought up with the proper respect for the business, and some of those guys have a hard time.
Do you think that's part of an issue? I think there's. It seems like more and more they try. Both organizations, really, everywhere tries to get guys that are not wrestlers to start wrestling.
Well, WWE is. I mean, they're going in a direction now where they are They're going to be in control from day one and in-house. So WWE will might take a guy who didn't make it in football or didn't make it in MMA, and they'll bring him in and say, "Hey, listen, come to our training facility." And we will train you and, see if it works and see if they can make him into a pro wrestler. They'll train him in the WWE mentality and how they want him to be.
Right.
I think the biggest problem out there with pro wrestling these days is the quality of wrestling school out there, who's taken, your average guy who wants to be a pro wrestler, whether he's, 5'5", 150 pounds or, 300 pounds, 6'5" guy. If you don't go to a quality wrestling school, you're never going to be broken in the right way, both physically and mentally in the wrestling business. And there's very few quality wrestling schools out there. Now, me and Devon do have a wrestling school in Florida. We break guys in the right way. We have a quality school. Booker has a quality school out in Texas. Lance Storm has a quality school up in Canada. But few and far between these days.
And so what, is that kind of the key? If you're looking for a wrestling school, you have to go to the schools that are run by wrestlers that you can trust, that in the ring.
Well, just like anything else, if you want to get into an industry, you want to be trained by the people who are the best at what they did, made money, were over, were credible.
Yeah.
It's so easy to open up a wrestling school these days. I mean, you rent a warehouse and you buy a ring, and all of a sudden, you own a wrestling school. What gives you any business, the right to train young wrestlers? And that's the biggest problem. All these fly-by-night wrestling schools training guys who have no business being in a wrestling ring.
Mm-hmm. You wrestled a style. You wrestled a hardcore style for a long time, and you wrestled at a time where it was like nobody was worried about concussions when you were wrestling. Chair shots to the head were a regular thing, and it was high impact, no pun intended.
Right,
but. A lot of the guys that you came up with are now kind of hobbling. They're not in the shape that you're in. And it kind of surprised me. I was thinking about it, that you seem like you're years away from even thinking about retirement.
Right.
How is it that you've managed to maintain on this level?
Well, I took care of myself. I never took drugs. I never took pills.
Is that what it is, a lot of it?
I'm not saying that that's what it is.
Yeah.
But I stayed away from all of the pitfalls that, could come with pro wrestling or any other, form of entertainment or sports. I tried to do the right thing.
And a lot of it, you're saying, is not necessarily everything that takes place in the ring, but the lifestyle that encompasses the whole deal.
Listen, when you're in entertainment, when you're in sports, the lifestyle, there's a lot of fun to be had.
Yeah.
And if you're going to have that fun, there's no problem. Just be careful. Don't go overboard. Don't throw your life away, to addiction or whatever. Mm-hmm. So a lot of those guys that I came up with who are not doing so good right now, well, that's their own fault.
Right.
It's not like somebody handed me, the keys, the key to the city and said, "Hey, you're going to be successful," and you're not. Everybody had the same opportunities. It's about what you do with them. And there are a lot of bitter guys out there. A lot of guys that like to sit out there and, trash other guys, or he did this, or, he was this. They're bitter. They're jealous. They had the same opportunities. Why didn't they take advantage of them?
I don't know. I mean, they probably didn't see him at the time, right?
That's it. Listen, opportunity doesn't always bust down your door.
But ego sometimes blocks opportunity, doesn't it? Like you think, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm this guy, and all of a sudden it disappears.
I really don't know what some of these guys think. It's mind-boggling, what they were thinking. Like, you just take all the guys from ECW,
Sure.
Because I can relate to that. Obviously, everybody had the same opportunity coming up through ECW. Why didn't everybody become the next anybody?
Bully Ray.
Anybody. I mean, me and Devon were homegrown talent in ECW. We went on to become very successful. And like you had a guy like Stone Cold Steve Austin come through ECW. Cactus Jack come through ECW. Everybody had the same opportunities.
And to the same credit, you just said it's not like you walked in the traditional wrestler build. Like you were a chubby guy in a tie-dye T-shirt.
No doubt. No doubt.
Made it happen.
No doubt. We did not look the part.
Right.
But that was our weakness. We hid the weakness and we accentuated the positives.
That's that old Paul Heyman trick, isn't it?
That's what he was a master at.
Yeah.
And him being a master at that, we've learned from that so much. So, it's not like we're going to go out there and get into pose downs with guys, Right. So we're going to go out there, we're going to have quality matches with guys, we're going to have a great finishing move, and we're going to do cool stuff with the tables.
Or you'll get on the mic and incite these fans.
Incite a riot, yeah.
Frothing with
nobody gives a crap what you look like physically if you're inciting a riot.
Right.
Yeah.
What's the worst thing a fan ever did to you?
Oh wow. I guess swing at us.
That's it.
I've been swung at. I've had batteries thrown at me.
You had
my tires slashed. Brooks through the window.
How'd they figure out what cars were yours?
They see us pull up in the arenas. This was all in ECW.
Yeah, of course. So you're all parking in the little ECW arena parking lot.
Exactly.
That's so crazy, though, that even the ECW fans, you got them mad enough that they were slashing tires and breaking car windows?
My job is to piss people off.
Yeah.
Pissing people off is my business, and business is good.
Apparently.
Yes.
Business is also good for your mechanic who's fixing your tires and windows. But never any, cups of urine, never any...
Not that I know of. Maybe at Devon.
He got all you're in chucked his way.
Yeah.
Your car was the only casualty of any of that. So TNA is going to be on the East Coast, which is a pretty big deal because a lot of what you do is, it was Florida-based. Now it's a little more all over the place, but you're not on the East Coast very often.
Well, we come to the Northeast. I mean, we just did a huge pay-per-view in Boston called Slammiversary that was extremely successful. Every year we come back to Coney Island, to Cyclone Stadium to do a show around the July 4th time. So July 5th we'll be in Coney Island at Cyclone Field. July 6th we'll be in White Plains at the Westchester County Center.
I'll probably have to check that out.
Yep, you have to come down.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I'll piss you off enough. Well, you want to run into the ring and I'll drop you on your head.
I'll start swinging at you.
There you go. So and both nights the cards are stacked. So it's going to be great night to come watch pro wrestling.
Is it good? Because forever, TNA Wrestling, where you wrestle now, was based in Florida, and all your shows were done out of Universal Studios, and everything was pretty much Florida-based except for the house show here and there. Mm-hmm. Is it good getting to perform in front of different crowds again?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, for me, it's it's great. I'm happy for the younger guys who now get to go on the road and perform in front of different people every single night. I know what it's like. But, for a company to grow, they got to get out there. They got to get their product to the masses.
Right.
And that's what TNA is doing. Different city for TV every single week. More house shows and live events now. Bringing the show on the road is, how you do it. I mean, it's rock and roll 101. Kiss toured forever. Just so everybody who would know who they were, and look what happens.
Wrestling is obviously a competitive business, and it's all about putting out compelling TV. So when you're sitting there, and you just were part of that when you revealed yourself as the president of Aces and Eights. So when you're sitting there, and WWE is obviously, it's a competitor. Mm-hmm. When you're watching them and they pull off a segment like the Mark Henry segment that they did last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, that has everybody talking and nobody saw it coming, does that make you angry? I wish I had thought of that. Does that make you, what does that do?
Well, I'm not going to sit here and say that I thought of it, but 3 years ago when I turned on Devon, it was the night of our retirement speech.
So you're sitting there looking at it saying...
No, but I'm not taking anything away from Mark Henry. I'm just saying I can understand the direction that they were trying to go in.
Right.
I think what Mark Henry did was brilliant. Mm-hmm. I thought he had the people in the palm of his hand, and he did exactly what any good performer knows how to do. Take them one way and then rip their heart out the other. Right. And it was awesome. People should be talking about it.
Does that motivate you to come up with, does that start having the wheels turn in your head, new ideas, or are you just saying that's its own deal?
I'm not in competition with anybody. I go out there to put on the best possible performance I can every single night. I don't look at his performance and go, why didn't I think of that? I appreciate it. As a performer, I appreciate what he did. I appreciate the fact that he was able to take the people on such an emotional roller coaster, a la what I have been able to do in the past, couple of months. Mm-hmm. So when you can manipulate the people's minds, you got something going.
You got to get out there and cry. That's the trick.
I don't cry, bro.
You got to get the tears.
I already told the girl on TV that I loved her.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah, you've emoted yourself.
Yeah, I've emoted myself. Yes.
Yeah. So, how much creative input do you have in your stories?
I have a lot of creative freedom with TNA, which is one of the reasons why I enjoy it here. Mm-hmm. And when I say I have creative freedom, actually, the locker room has creative freedom. TNA doesn't stifle you. It's not, it has to be this way. You have input. You have say. You can go out there and be the version of your character that you think you should be. And that's why I think TNA, really works. And I do believe it is the best locker room out there in pro wrestling because guys can be more of themselves. Right. As far as athletic ability and performers, the best in the world are in TNA.
You think so?
I know so. I know so. As a professional wrestler, as an athlete, when I look at the guys like AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode, James Storm, Austin Aries, Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian. Those guys are the best at what we do. The best athletes, great storytellers, and can do anything that they're, given to do.
Yeah.
And I will put them up against any, bunch of wrestlers in any other company.
How much credence do you give to critics, like internet people and reviewers, and people who say things like TNA is using recycled WCW storylines and things like that? How much credence do you give to that? Does it get you upset? Do you ignore it?
No. The only thing that, listen, it's very easy for people to sit back and quote unquote hide behind the keyboard and say they should have did this, they should have did that, this guy sucks, stuff like that. Everybody's a critic.
Sure.
Right?
Well, yeah, I mean, ever since blogs came out, everybody's got a publication.
Here's what I say to all the critics. Here's what I say to all the negative people out there who like to trash TNA or WWE or wrestling or anybody that has anything negative to say. Please, I invite you on any given day of the week to come to my wrestling school. Come to a TNA event. I invite you in the ring with me.
Yeah.
I will show you a couple of things, and let's see how well you can do these things.
Isn't it odd how many people criticize, the amount of people that criticize versus the amount of people that can actually create something?
Listen, everybody that sits behind their keyboard and criticizes pro wrestling and knocks it is because they wanted to do it in the worst possible way, but weren't physically, mentally capable to do it.
Mm-hmm.
They're all just fans who are mad at themselves and jealous of the guys who have made it. That's all they are. Now, yeah, you might have one or two legitimate critics out there who are passionate about pro wrestling, who write good, honest opinions. And I have a lot of guys, I have a lot of respect for guys out there who are pro wrestling journalists and write good pieces. At the end of the day, as long as you acknowledge the hard effort a wrestler put in trying to tell their story or wrestle the best possible match, that's fine. Don't just sit there and slag on everything, for no good reason.
Are you going to wrestle Hulk Hogan?
I hope so.
Really?
I hope so.
Can he handle it?
Can I handle it?
Can he handle it? I mean, this guy, he can barely walk.
Let me tell you something. Hulk is a tough man.
Yeah.
He really, really is. I know he's had a couple surgeries and been through, a couple things, but at the end of the day, Hulk's a tough guy. I would love to wrestle him. I want to be his last match.
You do?
Oh, absolutely.
That would be a hell of a
I want to be his last match and then make out with his daughter over his carcass.
Oh, my God. What happened with RVD? He's on the TNA website, and then all of a sudden he's on a commercial for a WWE pay-per-view, and then he's tweeting about being disrespected in TNA. Do you have any idea what the deal was?
I guess maybe his negotiations didn't go the right way. I'd be speculating. Yeah. I don't know. I don't really get into other guys' business like that. Most wrestlers don't. We're very, nobody knows anybody's, deal.
It's probably better that way.
Yeah, it definitely is. I don't know what went on with Rob. I hope he does great in WWE. I've had hundreds of matches against him. Always had great chemistry in the ring with him. I just hope he can, go there and spread his wings and be the Rob Van Dam he can be.
Gotcha.
And not be stifled by what their version of him might be.
Because the creativity is probably not as easy to be like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Okay, go do it.
No, exactly. That's the great thing about TNA. You have that, that creative freedom. WWE, not so much.
Mm-hmm. Does Stacy Keibler ever talk to you anymore?
Every once in a while we tweet, yeah.
I wonder about that, because Stacy Keibler seemed like one of the few, like The Rock kind of moved into Hollywood, but still at least acknowledges a little bit of wrestling here and there, whereas Stacy Keibler...
Actually, Rocky's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've stayed in contact with Rocky.
That's great.
Yeah, through texting and everything like that, we talk, and Rock, and Devon, and Mark Henry were pretty good friends, back in the day, and we drove together, we're on the road together for a long time, and we genuinely got along with Rocky, so we always stayed friends. And with Stacy also, she was always a fun girl to be around. I told her, don't ever forget, you tasted my wood before you did the Clooney Club. So
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And
so-
Clooney, you remember that too.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
listen, Bully Ray, Impact is on every Thursday night on Spike TV. It's at 9 o'clock?
From 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central.
Right. And that changed like a month ago. So
Yep.
it's 9 p.m. Eastern now. Also, next weekend, you'll be on the East Coast. Coney Island on the 5th.
Yep.
White Plains on the 6th.
And you're coming to the show on the 6th.
I will see
I
you
want
on
to
the
hear
6th.
you say right now on the air, and you're going to promise not to edit this out, that
Okay.
you will be there.
I will be there at the County Center on July 6th.
Okay, sounds good.
You're going to hook it up, right?
Ah, absolutely.
All
Look
right,
at you
good.
trying to get free tickets.
Well, I'm just
Wow,
saying.
you must be friends with Heyman.
Thanks a lot, Bully.
You got it. Thanks.